Hello. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Today's the 8th of February, 2026. I am back. My name is Lady Winnie. I am born in Uganda, but I live in the United States. I am back for a brief discussion and a few things I'd like to share with you. Obviously, regarding the regime of Uganda, Museveni. We know our legitimate president that won the election is His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, but Museveni has given himself a win and wants us to legitimize him as the president of Uganda. But that is not happening. You notice today that he was gazetted in Uganda, meaning that he's now the legitimate president to swear in May, but May is still a few months away. Therefore, our efforts will come to fruition, and he can do anything he wants to try to make himself feel like the president of Uganda, but like the rest of the world, he is not recognized as the president of Uganda. In the meantime, he is making effort he's very fearful that the Western world more than likely is going to do something to him or with him. So he's making arrangements, he's doing things left and right, he has plans and erasing them and makes new ones, then erases them again. But we affirm that we will have our win in Uganda. 2021, His Excellency Bobi Wine won the election, but he took it. This time, he's not doing that. Okay? So I have some security alerts. I have some things to share with you. I have some stories to share with you. I recently learned something that happened you remember the period last year when members of parliament were supposed to have meetings or have parliamentary seatings in different districts of Kampala. I'm going to talk about that. There's a big story behind it. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is Museveni's visit to Tanzania, which he did recently. So we will go through each and every one of those and, just learn a bit more about this man who has, taken over Uganda. Hi, John. This man who has hoodwinked Ugandans for a very, very long time, okay? The Western world just believed everything he did. They gave him so much power. They gave him so much protection, security, belief. But this one, and you're going to learn that Museveni is possibly not his father, the Ugandan man's son, the Rwandese man's son. He's likely Julius Nyerere's son. But we'll get there. So let's just walk back a little bit to the introduction here. There's still several abductions going on in Masaka, in Busoga, Eastern region, Western region, Northern region. A lot of people who are suspected to be Bobi Wine's or His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu's people are being abducted day and night. Several foot soldiers. If you do remember the people who made the parade for His Excellency at the NUP offices in Kampala, at Kamocha, they are being hunted down for what they did, and they're believing that those people are regrouping, or they're like they said, they want to make NUP look like a rebel organization or a terrorist organization. So anything that he can put together to seem or paint NUP as a terrorist organization, Kidega, I'm here, as a NUP organization, he's really, really trying to do. But listen to all of this today. There is so much that this man is doing. Museveni is evil. Museveni does a lot of witchcraft. Museveni has some very, very spiritual beliefs. I'm telling you, this Bachwezi thing is not just is not as simple as we may think. This battle for Uganda is not just what we see or what is visible to the eye. These guys have gone so far to do so much witchcraft that is unbelievable. In fact, one of the reasons they're occupying His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu's home in Magere is so that they do a lot of witchcraft practices, including some of it being done in Tanzania. But let's go step by step, okay? Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate that. I took so long because it's a weekend, you know, I have kids and lots of things to do, but my heart, as you know, my heart is for Uganda, is in Uganda. I hope for the best. Even if I don't live there, I want the best for everyone there, okay? So my fight will not stop, okay? If I can take a few minutes to do this, I'm happy to. So here I am, okay? We're in it to win it, and we're going to win it, okay? So you guys remember there was a general that passed away yesterday. And if you remember the security alert that I brought about the killings at Parliament, there were several people, including SFCs and several military people that were in that military briefing. Now, what happened was, on Museveni learning that those plans have been obviously found out by us who speak, by bloggers, by people in the social media, by ASP Asimawile and also Lumbuye, and they shared those facts. Museveni got really upset and got everybody who was involved. Remember, the plans were already made. Everybody was given what they need to do and how they would regroup and how they'd restructure and get away from the scene after all the killings are done. He got all these people, okay? And 15 of them were killed on the spot. 100 of them or so are in military prison, including SFCs, who were part of that briefing about the killings of members of parliament, especially the old parliament that Museveni was planning to do. I spoke about that a day ago or the day before yesterday. His intentions are to do something horrible, something big, to divert attention from His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu's win, because the whole world is talking about him. In Uganda, people are asking, our win, our win. It has not normalized or stabilized like he normally did, like last year like 2021 when he did, and everything normalized after a few weeks. This time, it's not going to change. And so he's so nervous because the Western world also is looking at him, pointing fingers at him, questioning him. Nobody except Russia, I believe Kenya, obviously Tanzania, Kagame, have legitimized him and have talked to him as a president of Uganda. The rest of the world is quiet. Nobody has recognized Museveni, and he's dying to get that legitimacy. But let's get this, some of this stuff that I've prepared for you to listen. So the SFCs that are imprisoned are in a place called Kasenyi. I believe that might be either in Kampala or in Tebe. The SFCs who were part of the briefing about the killing in Parliament are arrested and are detained in a place called Kasenyi. The other thing is Museveni wants to capture people like Lumbuye, Asimawile, Bible and Politics, because they leak a lot of information, because they're given a lot of information. Even those SFC people and the 15 soldiers who were killed Museveni did that intending to reduce or to find out who is surely leaking information. All of their meetings, Museveni has no intelligence anymore, has no secrets anymore, because as much as, thank you, Isaac, as much as he puts out his plans, it's as fast as it gets out, and it's known to the whole country. People like, I'm a small part of it, but other people are saying a lot more, sharing a lot more, and just bearing Museveni like never before. Those are one of the things that's causing his government to fail. Absolutely having no intelligence for himself, There's no government that can operate that way. Therefore, the Western world or the rest of the world is knowing Museveni just like he is. No embellishments, no lies, no being fake, no doing things that, you know, people think, oh, maybe not, maybe. No, the facts are out, and he's doing exactly what is coming out. And even if he changes some, he's doing a lot of it. So people are catching on that this guy has not been good all along. You know, it makes sense now that the same killings that were happening during Idi Amin's time and Obote's time are the same types of killings that are happening now, which means since the 1960s or 50s and 70s, right after independence, Museveni already started committing these atrocities, and those atrocities were blamed on people like Idi Amin. You know, when we come out here and you say, I'm from Uganda, one thing that anybody will tell you is Idi Amin, especially older, you know, Americans or people of foreign nationalities who have a little bit of history about Uganda will remember Idi Amin because of the big things that Museveni told the world that Idi Amin committed. Most of them were Museveni coming to hit while these governments were still running and running back to Tanzania. There's a video where Museveni says when he was younger, he went away to Uganda from Tanzania. He came into Uganda and performed really bad acts and then ran back into Tanzania. This makes sense because because of what he's doing that stays the same even now, like it used to be when those people were still in government. So when we blame Obote, when we blame Idi Amin, just be mindful. Think back. Think about the things that happened. You know, the atrocities that used to happen, and look at the similarities with what's happening now. The other thing is that there is an end of year party that was supposed to happen last year at Parliament. You know, the members of Parliament usually have a party every year to close the year and whatever. This time, I think they're preparing for the election. They got busy, or maybe Museveni had a better allotted time for him to make his big hit. So anyways, all members of Parliament are supposed to be going to a party where they're all invited. There's a major caution to the opposition individuals. People like leader of opposition, Joel Senyoni, and other lead opposition, any member of opposition, you are supposed to be even more careful than possible. In fact, it's advisable that opposition people don't even show up to that party, because Museveni is no longer going to execute that other killing that he had talked about during a parliamentary session. He wants to do it this way. Let me tell you a story. Remember when they were supposed to have parliamentary seatings in different districts? I think they were supposed to have something in Gulu. I don't remember if it happened. It must have happened. But get this. One of the workers who was part of the team at one of the hotels, who was part of the planning, who was included in the planning for those parliamentary seatings in different districts, where Masaka was supposed to be one of them, and Mpuga was super excited because he knew what the plot was against his other opposition MPs. There was a lady and her husband who worked at a prominent hotel in Kampala who were part of this planning meeting. And in this planning meeting, apparently the towels and linens that were supposed to be used by opposition people were supposed to be made special, prepared special, with certain powder or perfume that was supposed to be sprayed on those linen before these members of parliament were to get to those rooms, their rooms where they would sleep. Okay, so just like this party, you have chairs or seating arrangements that are allotted to each member of parliament. So they will identify whose chair, which one it is, or which room somebody goes to sleep. But anyway, back to that story about that lady and her husband. They heard the plans that were supposed to be. They heard there was supposed to be some kind of poison that that lady and her husband, who was part of the hotel team, should go and put on towels, like wash towels and other linens and pillows, put some powders or chemicals onto those things so that when these members of parliament went back to bed, they would inhale those chemicals, which would cause medical issues. Eventually, they'd end up, not dying right there and then, but probably go home with medical conditions that they would never recover from. So when that meeting ended, the lady, the wife of one of the two people part of the meeting, felt really bad. Okay, so she called her mother, who lives in Sweden, and said, "Mom, something has happened, and I feel really, really terrible. I'd like to tell you, there's a plan by the government to get rid of, or to have us poison leaders of the opposition." And so the mom, after hearing that, before the mom, these guys that were in the meeting, the SFCs, the soldiers, or the Museveni people, had left the premises. But then they thought for a second and came back. When they came back, they took everybody's telephone. They took all of them. And this girl had just recorded a message to her mother in Sweden and said, "Mommy, they've asked us to do something that's really, really bad, and I feel terrible." And she mentioned every detail like they told them to go and do with the sheets and linens of the opposition MPs. When they captured, she tried to erase that detail quickly, but she couldn't. And so that message went out, and these SFC guys came back and captured her phone and said, "Everybody bring your phone." So they took her phone and looked in it and listened to the message. Right there and then, her and her husband were captured, abducted from the hotel, taken away. She was taken somewhere else. There's a place in Katavi, in Entebbe, where there's a safe house. Apparently there's a bunch of snakes there. That's how they terrorize these people. Okay, all the NUP members who were abducted and taken to Katavi. There's all kinds of things which happens. But apparently they breed snakes there, large snakes. That's where they took the lady. And the husband was taken to another location. And these people were tortured for days, for weeks, for months. But the good thing was that her mother already had the information. Her mother shared the information with Lumbuye and other channels that could broadcast. Her mother started making arrangements with other people. She's from Kasese, Western Uganda somewhere. I'll tell you when I find where I wrote it down. But the mother started making arrangements to try to get to rescue those children, her son-in-law and her daughter. And she did, but eventually, this woman, where she was taken, she was raped daily by soldiers. Daily, hourly, whatever they wanted, they did to her. Eventually, the man was taken somewhere else. He had his own separate torturous activities going on. He did not, sometimes these people are unconscious when all these things are being done to them. So anyways, the woman, her mother starts to arrange to try to get her out and all of that. You all know that Katavi is very close to the airport. So when mom was able to get her daughter away by all means, talking to these people here and there and there, like, most of the military or some of the military that are Ugandan have the heart to care about Ugandans, but they're forced to do really dirty deeds. They're not all in for it, but some of them are just made to do these things. So the woman was tortured, raped. She contracted HIV. The mother was able to take her, figure out a way. When she escaped from the hands of those people in Katavi, she ran straight to the airport in Entebbe, was able to board the plane with a few good hearts, a few good people, got her on the plane, and she left and went to a place where she got treatment. Okay? She got treatment later, and there's no saying if people going through something like that can recover and get back to what they used to be. Okay, a lot of sacrifice has been done in Uganda by people just standing up for the truth and getting into the most treacherous, the most terrible experiences there can be. So she contracted HIV. Obviously, her family was broken. On the husband's side, he was found one day lying on the street half dead somewhere in Uganda. Let me see where it was. At Namavuba, someplace like there's a place like that. He was found half dead later. He was going to be taken to the mortuary, but they realized that his heart was still beating and that he was normal and he was okay. They took him to the hospital, had him recover somewhat, and the mother of the daughter helped also get her to another country. He did not take them to Sweden because Museveni has ties in Sweden, and they would find them, they'd follow them, they'd find them and do even worse to them. Some of you might remember the couple that came to Uganda that were retiring and going to Sweden. There are ties, the ones who were killed in their home, there are ties to them doing things for Museveni, managing their family assets. As you know, there's some Swiss accounts that are protected where most dictators or some presidents send their monies to those banks, the Swiss banks, where they're not tracked, or they can freely store their monies there. And so it is said that that family of husband and wife were doing deeds for the Museveni's because they worked for the Swiss banks. They may have been involved in taking their funds there, and then it came a time when Museveni wanted them to do dubious things, but they couldn't because the law catches up with you eventually. And there are some things that they cannot do beyond what their powers that be ask them to do. So the Museveni's were trying to manipulate these people to do certain things, but they refused. And then there came time for them to retire and go back home. And when they went back home shortly after, they didn't live. There was, an incident where they said they were killed in their home by thugs and this, that, and the other. But there's a hand of Museveni in that family as well. Like I said, so much of stuff that happens in Uganda can be linked to the Museveni family because they're not Ugandan. They don't wish well for Uganda. In fact, they prefer that Ugandans do not exist so that they run and own that country. So that couple, husband and wife, obviously had a broken family because of this incident. They were the sacrifice that unfortunately happened while in effort to rescue the opposition leaders who were supposed to attend those parliamentary sittings in different areas of Uganda. Mpuga was very excited because obviously you all know that Mpuga was chased away from Nup for being a spy for the Museveni people and collecting the 500 million in bribe. Okay, so that is how that event ended, and that lady and her husband, God take care of them wherever they are. They're alive right now, but they suffered because of that event. Okay. So the wife was treated for HIV, but that cannot really, she can't fully recover from it, but she's away from Uganda now, and they survived that event. Okay. So many of you saw yesterday, there was a general that passed. His name is Takirwa. He hasn't been buried yet, but obviously he has already been replaced by another gentleman. Mohozi appointed somebody else. That goes to show you who really wanted this man gone, okay? And this happens all the time. You realize the time that the Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Olanya, was really sick, and when he had been transported to the United States, maybe even before that, there was already rumors about who's going to take over. Taiwo was talked about much, much earlier. I didn't even think that was a possibility, but eventually Anita Among moved up and Taiwo was in the place of Anita Among, just like that. So these guys always have a plan. They're a few miles ahead in terms of who replaces who because they know when to take out who. Okay? And so in efforts to try to get Ugandans away from the win or trying to get their win from Museveni, he's doing everything possible. But the biggest thing that he has tried to do and cover is his trip to Tanzania. There's so much that was involved. So much. Okay? Many of you will hear or remember that Museveni started there were 15 officers who were killed, including that general. Yes, that general was part of that meeting. That's why he was taken out just like that. they suspect that these people are the ones who shared those secrets about killing those members of parliament in parliament with people like us who do the bloggers or the people who share information and things like that. Thank you for adding that, Maureen. So his trip to Tanzania, like I was saying, Museveni is believed to actually be a legitimate son of Julius Nyerere. It's not surprising because many of us have heard that Museveni started, he speaks about it very proudly. He started from Tanzania and he came into Uganda, hit and run. He came and did things and ran back, but you'll know that Nyerere was very keen to the success of Yoweri Museveni in everything he did. In fact, he's the one that sent him to, I believe, one of the countries south of Tanzania to go and train militarily so that he can come back and attack like Idi Amin and attack Obote while they were still in government, and gave him strategies to come and destabilize these two governments so that he could come and, somehow sip into the government. It now makes total sense because there's a likelihood that he is the father of Museveni and not the gentleman who was killed and buried in Isinjiro. That was not his father. So, the big trip to Tanzania, what was that all about? Okay? Museveni went to Tanzania because he has been working with witch doctors. No kidding. This man and his family are all about witchcraft. The pretense of Natasha being, I don't know, the Christian head of religion or whatever, one of the daughters, it is not because they believe in God. No. These guys are way up in the behind of witchcraft. They believe in witchcraft. They live about witchcraft. Okay? You will not believe, but I'm just going to say these things because these are facts. Things that these people have done from their trip to Tanzania. So he went to Tanzania because he had some things to deliver in Tanzania. They've been telling him, all the witch doctors have been telling him that His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu is blessed and appointed by God to become the legitimate president of Uganda. That in fact, Museveni and his son have no more powers to be or to stay president and so on to lead Uganda. So what they decide to do is keep on searching how they can take the powers or take the wisdom of Kyagulanyi Ssentamu from His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu and give it to Muhoozi or draw the power back to their family using witchcraft. Okay? The witch doctors keep telling him that in Kyagulanyi's home in Magere, he doesn't even know how Kyagulanyi himself does not know how he got to be in that place. He just went about buying land, and it so happened that he bought this land with all these things going on that are blessings. In fact, that people believe that Kyagulanyi mentions that, something hit him and he became interested. And then he started doing what he does. There is not a thing of him being born a certain way, prepared to be president of Uganda. None of that. But as destiny would have it, he bought this land. And apparently on his land, Museveni and his people believe that there are special powers that make Kyagulanyi who he is. So they have decided to go to Kyagulanyi's home. As you noticed with the military, staging of the military, seizing his home and attacking every family member and getting everybody important out of the home, the disguise has been for Museveni to go and perform witchcraft on that land. So, in the last few days, maybe yesterday, before he went to Tanzania, they've been doing things in the backyard, in the back of Kyagulanyi's house, inside Kyagulanyi's house. In fact, it's believed that they've taken Kyagulanyi's clothes. They have taken his personal items. They've taken clothes that are very close, undergarments, so that they can go and perform witchcraft on them. They have Museveni and his son have gone into Kyagulanyi's home and taken a shower or a bath on the floor, mopped the floor, collected the water from the floor, put it in a container, and took it to Tanzania to the witch doctor so that they can perform whatever it is on that and spill the rest of it in the ocean. Apparently, that's how Museveni became what he was. He did that. He got powers from the ocean or whatever. And he wants to now go and reinstate those powers because he has been told time and again that those powers are gone. Yes, Isaac, they will not succeed. They're not. Museveni has lost everything, whatever it was that he had is all gone. It's not going to happen. It's time for them to exit, but they're trying everything possible to see if they can get back the powers that they used to have. All along, they had no means to get into the home. You know, every time they terrorize, there's always family at home. It's no wonder that when the election day started, even after Mrs. Barbara Chagulanyi was advised to leave the home, she insisted on staying because she said, you know, that is her home. As a woman, I understand. And so I understand that she stayed because it's her home. But the reason why they attacked her is to have her evacuated so that they can perform this witchcraft in that home. Okay? They've done several witch activities. They've taken his shoes, personal clothing, other items. They've performed activities in the spring water. Apparently he has a spring water in his backyard. I have never been to Magere. I don't know what happens there, but this is a security alert from people very close to the Museveni people. Okay, so there's trees in the backyard. There's a spring water where they've performed all of these activities. They have also butchered a cow, a white cow, in the back of the house or something like that. People who still stay there see these things, but most of this is got from the security alert from the people who work with them, but do not want to continue. Okay, Museveni took his clothes off, took the clothes of Bobby Wine to Tanzania. That's one of the things that took him to Tanzania for witchcraft. So they bathed and they took the clothes. They went to perform the witchcraft in the Indian Ocean where there is salt water. They will return to Magere in the next few days at His Excellency's home to finish up what they started. Okay, so they're not done. They went on the trip to Tanzania to deliver those items and perform on the Indian Ocean, but they will be back. Eventually, they will remove the military from his home. So when you see that the military have been taken away from the house, you then know that they feel like they have achieved or they have finished what they were sent to be doing there by the witches. Museveni wants legitimacy from other countries. He wants them to receive him as the president of Uganda, but no other country wants to be seen with Museveni. No president wants to be seen, obviously, except people like Suluhu and Salva Kiir from Sudan, Kagame, and the one from Kenya. But the rest of the world do not want to be seen from him, especially after all this exposure of the kind of person that he is. Nobody really wants to be associated with him. The other thing that Museveni is trying to get help with is when he was given the BRICS assignment. BRICS, that's a group that includes China and Russia. Museveni was given the assignment to recruit a lot of African countries to become under the BRICS. You know, there's this war that's going on about, you know, aligning with, making allies with Russia, China, or with the US and other allies and things like that. So in those efforts, for him to, obviously, you know, he allies with Russia. In efforts to stay legitimate or stay in ally with Russia and hopefully get some help when needed, he has failed because these presidents don't want to have anything to do with him. He has failed to... Reading something here, Rookie. Yes, you're right, Rookie. Which we are praying, you know, eventually his home is going to be cleansed and he'll be back without any of the evil practices. But remember this, His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu is a clean human being. His hands are clean. He has not hurt anyone. His intentions are good. I don't believe that anything wrong will happen to him. Whatever these Museveni people are doing will not hurt Kyagulanyi Ssentamu because he's a clean man. He has done nothing wrong to anyone. Okay? Thank you for adding that. So I said, so the BRICS contract that they gave him to fulfill of putting most African leaders together has failed. So because they don't recognize him as the president of Uganda and also don't recognize him because of the ugly name that he has all over the world now, he's trying to come out and look legitimate again. But it's not working. So that's the other reason he also went to Tanzania. He wants to twist Suluhu. As you know, Museveni had a hand in trying to get Suluhu into the presidency in Tanzania. It is no wonder Magufuli mysteriously was gone. Suluhu took over. And then Suluhu had an election where she claims to win by 98%. And several Tanzanians dead and slaughtered. In fact, I shared something on my page today where BBC is talking about Tanzanians, young people still speaking about being abducted and killed day and night. So you can tell that Suluhu looks in the mirror and sees Museveni. They do the same things. They're the same actors. And she gets a lot of advice from Museveni. So it is time. He wants Suluhu to return the favor by doing certain things for him. Okay? He wants Suluhu to support him and make him look legitimate. And every time he goes to Tanzania, he wants Suluhu to drum even louder to make him, to officiate him as the president of Uganda. And have other nations and call other nations and talk to other nations to also recognize Museveni as such. But time's up because Museveni knows his time is up, and any time from now, he will be yanked out of there from the presidency just about any time. And he knows this more than anyone, that it's going to happen. He's now trying to find ways to either escape or disappear or prepare friends where he can go if in case he survives an attack, which he knows very well something's coming to him. He says that he needs more allies to help him in case the West, which is more afraid of the U.S. Thank you so much, Senator Jim Risch of Idaho. You have been an amazing, amazing friend of Uganda and supporter of democracy in Uganda. Anybody that can find, a way to thank him, go online, send thank yous to the Foreign Secretary of State, the secretary, I believe is the secretary of a department, State Department. Please say thank you to him for what he's doing for Uganda, and that we're hoping for more to be done. Sanctions plus other things, which I can't talk about because they're in the works, okay? Which Museveni knows. So that's why he's trying to make more allies with African nations and presidents, to try to stay safe or keep himself safe for as long as he can. Museveni is suspected to be the son of Julius Nyerere. It is the reason why he has a village or a city in Tanzania that is all his and his people only. Don't ask me where the people that were originally there are, because you know how his practices are. So it is said that his mother, Esteriko Okundeha, was raped by Julius Nyerere when she was living there. Okay? You will notice that Julius Nyerere, in fact, the mother of Museveni is from Rwanda. And she came to live with Julius Nyerere after she was excommunicated from Rwanda for being, for not being, or for not following the rules of where she was living. There was something that she did. I think she was part of a royal family, and she fell in love with an outsider, and so she was excommunicated from the community. in Rwanda. So she was sent to Tanzania because Julius Nyerere's wife or family member is part of the family of Museveni. And while she was living in that home, she was raped by Julius Nyerere, and he fathered the child with her. Even if she went out to Uganda, they sent her to Uganda to go as a refugee, to go and find, like most Rwandese were passed through Tanzania and then they went into Uganda and found refugee status and were given a place to live. And that's where her husband, the man she married, the Ankole man who she married in Ankole, was believed to be Museveni's father, but he actually isn't. It was Julius Nyerere who is the father, who is believed to be the father of Museveni. Therefore, it makes sense that Julius Nyerere has given Museveni a lot of support since the time he was a child. And it makes sense that when the father, who is the Ugandan man, came to seek help from Museveni, thank you, man, Musa, that's right. Anybody in the U.S. who needs to call the State Department, the number to call is 202-647-4000. Please call and tell them what Museveni is doing in Uganda. I call that number every day, and I'd like for us all to call, either go through our local offices, or you can call directly and leave a message, or leave a message with the secretary at that office. She'll be able to take the message. Let's flood that line so that we can get more help from Senator John Rich or State Department. Okay. So speaking about Museveni, it is no wonder that the father of Museveni, when he came to seek help, the Ugandan father, stepfather, who they said raised Museveni, every time he came to seek help, Museveni did not want to help him. In fact, he ended up killing him and having him buried somewhere in the bushes in Asinjiro. Okay? Museveni also had gone to Tanzania to check on his minerals, which he has hid in Tanzania. A lot of it from Uganda and Congo. A lot of mining has been happening in Congo illegally by Museveni and Kagame. Everything that Museveni does, obviously ally with Kagame. They've amassed a lot of minerals. It's no wonder the peace deal that President Trump signed with Kagame and the President Tshisekedi did not withhold because of Museveni still being at large and loose. And that's why he was not included, because they know that he is the dubious actor in that region. Museveni is the dubious actor in the region. So they thought maybe these two guys could make it work, but obviously not. It didn't work. The peace deal flopped. You notice that there's still killings going on in the Congo region, but all the minerals, all the timber, are being hidden in a place called Butiama. Butiama in Tanzania. All my Tanzanian friends, you will know that there's a place called Butiama in Tanzania where it is almost a village that's exclusively for Museveni and his people. In fact, this place is protected and guarded by the SFC. This place was given to Museveni by Julius Nyerere, which makes total sense, again, because being that he is close relations to Museveni, he may have just wanted to give him something, or give him as an heir or whatever, part of the family, a piece of his share so that it doesn't bother the rest, okay? All the minerals that were stolen from Uganda, the gold that's dug that's mined in the Karamoja region, all of the other minerals, there's several in that area of Karamoja. They're all taken and hidden and stored in Tanzania, in this part called Butiama. You will also read, if you go on Google, actually I saw that this morning, Butiama is where Julius Nyerere comes from. I would say it's probably where he was born. It makes total sense why this relationship or bond is stronger than ever. In fact, Museveni has mentioned that Julius Nyerere should be given sainthood for I don't know what. Probably for the tactics that he gave him, that he used successfully in attaining and retaining Uganda for 40 years and counting. Okay. The other thing Museveni wants is to give Suluhu those minerals, okay, the ones that he has stored in Butiama. Museveni wants to give to do some sort of barter trade between him and Suluhu. The fact that Museveni cannot go himself and borrow money, such as from the IMF, International Monetary Fund, or the World Bank, because of his bad name, he's now seeking to, yes, thank you, Musa, that's right, that's the spelling, Butiama. So Museveni is trying to barter trade with Suluhu, to go and give her the minerals that he has stored in Butiama, so that Suluhu can borrow money from the Western world, the IMF and the World Bank and other countries, borrow money and give Museveni in exchange for the minerals that Museveni has stored in Butiama. But meanwhile, Suluhu has her own hot soup, because she's still struggling to recover from the election where she killed a lot of people. Nobody has given her peace in Tanzania, and being that she's civilian, it's a little different and difficult for her to manage the crowds and the people of Tanzania, because they are retaliating day and night. They want their win. They want Suluhu out of the presidency. So he has several minerals from Congo, timber from Congo, minerals from Uganda, all stored in that town in Tanzania. Okay. And Butiama, which is that region of Tanzania, is where Museveni has built a lot of schools. One of you said, well, earlier on somebody said that, but we remember the time that there was a school that was built in Tanzania that's named Museveni. Okay? You wonder why Museveni does a lot of things and takes it to Tanzania. A lot of his family live in this place called Butiama. He has built schools, medical facilities, and the place is highly protected by the SFC as his personal village, and in the hopes that later on he will retire or escape and go live there. The husband of Esteri, who is the mother of Museveni, is called Kaibanda. I remember now. Okay? And he was not his real father. He was the man who the lady met when she went to Uganda first as a refugee. That's the man who took her out of the refugee camp and gave her a home, and they lived together thereafter. And Museveni had and Kaibanda had other children, but Museveni had already been conceived by Julius Nyerere, by her from Julius Nyerere. Okay, this man was killed. Museveni sent the SFC to go and kill this man and bury him in a sinjiro in the bush. Okay, and Museveni knows very well that his father is Julius Nyerere. Okay, the other thing Museveni went to do in Tanzania is to ask him to find His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, and he, find him like he did Mukulu. Remember Mukulu, who was arrested in Tanzania and repatriated back to Uganda upon the request of Museveni. Museveni suspects that Bobi Wine is likely in Tanzania or was taken away through Tanzania to another country, which he's not sure, but he suspects that that might be the case. Okay? So he wants Suluhu to keep watch of when Bobi Wine returns, or if he does ever show up in Tanzania, that he's captured and returned to Uganda. He also asked Suluhu to help and not allow foreign countries, most likely he's afraid of the U.S., he's afraid the U.S. or any other country is going to attack him soon because of what he saw happen in Venezuela or what happened to Gaddafi. He believes that something is coming to get him. And so he has asked Suluhu not to allow any foreign ships to dock at the border, at the oceans, in the docks where the ships land. She has also, like submarines sometimes will protect borders in the waters, on the shores, along those areas. And he has asked that if that happens, that Suluhu retaliates or refuses those types of ships to dock in that area. And also he has requested that Suluhu not to allow any air air activities in the range of Tanzania, within the skies of Tanzania. For example, if, let's say, a certain country is planning on coming into Uganda through Tanzania, that Suluhu not let them use the airspace in Tanzania to attack Uganda. The other thing he went to Tanzania for is to ask Suluhu not to tell Suluhu that it's time for her to pay back for the help Museveni gave him during the time that she needed him during the elections. As you will remember, it's caught on video a lot of times during that period of time that Ugandan militia were in Tanzania, and so were Rwandi's militia, to go and they killed over 2,000 Tanzanians who were protesting Suluhu's win or Suluhu's run and irregularities during the election. So Museveni now wants Suluhu to back him up while this is happening to him. The other thing is that Suluhu says Tanzania is still unstable and she really can't do much to help Museveni at this time. Therefore, she says that she needs to focus on her country because she's also about to lose her status as president in Tanzania. Okay? He has also asked Suluhu for aircrafts in case of an attack on Ugandan airwaves. Museveni says Suluhu should help him send him some aircrafts and some military ammunition to go help him defend himself in case of an attack on Uganda. But Suluhu says, being that she's a civilian president, she has to consult with the military or the Security Council so that they can decide on what they want to do to help Museveni. She alone cannot make that decision. And apparently in Tanzania, their laws or faculties, the different departments of governments still work independently and are not manipulated like in Uganda. Therefore, she cannot make a decision on her own and let it fly to support Museveni without the acceptance or the blessing from the military council. So Museveni has to wait for that, which likely not possible because Suluhu is completely strained also in just trying to keep a lid on Tanzania. Okay. Some of the promises that Museveni has given Suluhu is that he promised to give her minerals from Uganda, gold, for example, from Congo. There's several parts of Uganda where they've actually found gold. And so he wants to give her whatever he can give her to have her support completely. He has also offered to give her a larger portion of Lake Victoria where they can catch fresh water fish because Tanzania has a small portion of Lake Victoria. Museveni has promised to give her a wider portion so Tanzanians can fish. Apparently in Tanzania, when they fish, they're only supposed to catch older fish. It's illegal to catch smaller fish. But in Uganda, you are allowed to catch older fish and leave the smaller fish to grow. So the opposite seems to work for Suluhu. Museveni really doesn't care if Ugandans have fish or not, but he plans on giving her so that she can help her out. The other thing is Suluhu says that she's in hot soup. Obviously, since the elections, there's more cracks in the government, in her presidency, so she's mostly focused and cannot help Museveni, which upsets Museveni because he expects her to just run at his beck and call. It's not happening, so he's not happy. He has also asked Suluhu to borrow money from foreign bodies because he cannot borrow money himself anymore. He has asked Suluhu because he's being monitored by the IMF and World Bank. And Suluhu says, she's also handling her own pressure at home. She may if she can, but it's not a guarantee that she will be able to help Museveni with all of his requests. Okay, so all of those are requests that Museveni has asked Suluhu to do for him. Museveni is most worried about the U.S., and that Suluhu should not give docks or airspaces for the U.S. to attack Uganda or attack him. It's basically him because for Ugandans in general, there is not an issue that the Western world is seeking to, punish a country or deal with people, but the only reason they would come is such that they try to get rid of the dictator, Museveni, and nothing else. Okay. He also says, obviously stresses, if Suluhu sees His Excellency Bobby Wine, like they did Jamil Mukulu, they should return him to Uganda as soon as possible. The other thing that Museveni has done, he has manipulated Suluhu. The army in Tanzania has actually compromised such that Museveni owns about a quarter of the military. They respond to him more than they do Suluhu. I wonder if this is possible because there's a mix of Rwandese in the military so that he can control the powers there. He can speak and they can execute. So a quarter of the military are on Museveni's side. Okay. So Museveni also went to Tanzania to reactivate his witchcraft, which apparently started in the Indian Ocean, as I mentioned earlier. That's one of the things that took him to Tanzania. He also went to see his people in Tanzania in that place called Butiama. It's a place where he and his people are hiding and living in a city that is their own, more like a community that is completely fully furnished, fully running, and is all for the Museveni and Museveni family. He has gone to visit and see how possible it is for him to return when things get even worse, which he knows things are getting worse, but he needs to prepare for an exit. Okay. Okay. What else? Oh, the other thing is he's going to highly start taxing social media and their content. So people in Uganda that are part of the bloggers or social media, there's going to be a new bill that will be tabled soon to try to charge you for, to tax you on your activities online. Museveni wants to visit more countries, but is in panic. It feels like, he can't just show up because he feels like he'll get picked up by the ICC or arrest warrants that are lingering around. He wants to get to the safe zones and increase his legitimacy as the president of Uganda, but it's not possible because he has fallen off that pedestal now. He's no longer recognized as such. He's trying to sell minerals to try to get money because he is broke as a government. It used to be that by now he would have gotten grants and all kinds of money from, especially like America, for example, has toned down on what they could give him. It used to be he was getting money even for the LGBTQ community in Uganda, which he harassed the new party for being, the criminals or the people, the ousted people of the LGBT community, because Museveni does not like them. But he took money in their names from the U.S. He's also trying to get IT companies to hack social media so that he can, pages like mine, he will strip or take away by those people that are, like IT savvy. Okay. He's also planning to start the Ujamaa policy, which you people know in Tanzania. In Tanzania, the law forbids anybody to own land as an individual. All land is owned by the government, and they just portion it on a lease basis to individuals. So he wants to bring this. That's one of the things that he wants to bring to Parliament right after he swears in. He wants to table 3 things. He wants to table an impeachment of him. He wants to table the presidential elections to happen in Parliament, only at parliamentary level. That means a grassroots Ugandan will no longer elect the president. And yet, his parliament will have at least 80%, or between 60 and 80% of his party. That means they will always win on an election for presidency. Remember, this time Museveni has only his people in parliament. You saw how actual winners like Waiswa Mufumbiro were stripped, and older people like Ruhindi came back to their seats. Dr. Hildeman was stripped of his win and was given to the lady that had even gone away and left the position. They've come back to take their places so they can continue and take over and take over the changes that are happening. These people are now planning for their children and grandchildren. They know their time's up. They know that they're aging, but they want to make sure their next of kin is taken care of. But don't be afraid, because that's only their speculation. It's not really what is happening. It's not what's going to happen. We know their plans, and that's what weakens them the most, because we can act alongside their plans and do what we need to do. Okay? One last point is Balaam is buying off prominent opposition leaders to legitimize Museveni. Museveni is planning on his swearing in May. And what he'd like to see is that a lot of MPs who are in the opposition come in with him and show legitimacy on the event and continuously, and have them help harmonize the country to make it seems like election period is over. It's time for us to get back to work, get back to normal, get life back to normal. But that, in any case, is not possible, because even the youngest person in Uganda knows that Museveni is not the legitimate or elected president of Uganda. Soon, it's coming to an end. They've existed for 40 years. They've done whatever they've done, but it's over. We're doing the best we can wherever we are right now. Several efforts are being made. A lot of people presidents and leaders of the rest of the world are not legitimizing Museveni. They're not going to mention him. Museveni himself cannot visit as a president anywhere in the Western world, because he knows anytime an arrest warrant can be issued, anytime he can get picked up. Therefore, he's using people like Suluhu, who we can manipulate to try to get money to sustain his presidency. But like I said, we're still together, Uganda. We're doing the best we can. Anybody that's in the U.S., please call State Department. The number is there. Let's call every day. Let's do whatever we can. Continue filing with the